morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Sharon Rockefeller, and I think I recognize every face in this room. And I want to start by saying I remember it all as if it were yesterday. 45 years ago, in November of 1966, Jay kindly asked me if I would marry him. On April 1st, 1967, I struggled because I could not find exactly the right words of response. Jay's known for his humor and his wit, and I simply couldn't figure out whether he was serious or not. So I said nothing. The next day he said to me, "I hope you're not turning me down." He said, "The House of Delegates adjourns on March 23rd, and I would be available to travel to Chicago on April 1st. Somebody get that down and put it on a card in his pocket. We could be married on April Fool's Day. With this kind of proposal, what would one do but accept? Our children were born promptly thereafter. John in 1969, Valerie in 1971, Charles in 1973, and Justin in 1979. You should note that these are, or were, off-election years. And I was available. In fact, Valerie was born 5 years after April 1st, on April 1st. She's our love child, as are the boys. This is a proud, deeply touching, and poignant day for us. It means a great deal to Jay and to our family to be able to share it with our dearest friends and our expanding family, which is significantly larger than it had been in recent years. Our 4 children, 2 of their spouses, 4 of our 6 grandchildren, and Jay's sister Hope and her husband Mike are here. Could I ask them all to stand and turn around and just be recognized? Thank you. We wanted to gather together with you as we look towards the future. Not only Jay's future, but also the future of the state and the futures of the wonderful people who embraced us so warmly when we decided to make West Virginia our home almost 50 years ago. We never could have predicted where our lives have taken us. Jay's unbending commitment to and support of West Virginia have grounded us here in the best sense. West Virginia gave Jay his most life-changing moment, the opportunity to work as a 27-year-old VISTA volunteer in Emmons. We've all heard that story. That experience provided a crucial crossroad in his life. Whether he knew it or not, it established a clear path forward for him in public service and public policy through elected office. West Virginia also gave me my own professional start, although I didn't know it at the time. I worked as a teacher in a Head Start center in Cold Branch Heights for 2 years. I didn't have any training as a teacher. I just knew my primary colors and my alphabet and my numbers, and I had to pass them along. Very soon thereafter, we had 3 children and our own daycare center at home on Barbary Lane, where we still live, and later in the governor's mansion for 8 years. There's great bicycle riding around this Capitol complex. If nothing else, it's beautiful, but it's a great bike ride too. As a 22-year-old, I visited the Arts and Crafts Fair in Ripley 1 month after moving to Charleston in 1967. West Virginia's quilting heritage was an inspiration to me. I thought it was magical. So 2 friends and I immediately launched and founded Mountain Artisans, a statewide business which showcased the unrecognized quilting skills of hundreds and hundreds of women in West Virginia, and also doubled their family's annual income. I hear this was the first arts and crafts in the United States in that sense. But then it was in Buchanan, while we were at West Virginia Wesleyan College from 1973 to 1976, that my career in public broadcasting, again unknown to me, took off. I loved the college radio station, which was the only public radio in West Virginia. It was a student volunteer operation. And I went and hung around there and told them what I thought they should do. The Watergate hearings were just starting. So it was a fascinating time, and that put public radio and public TV on the map when the hearings were carried full-time all day long. I then served on the West Virginia Educational Broadcasting Authority Board for 15 years, and also the board of the Corporation for Public Broadcasting in Washington for 15 years. I've now been the president and CEO of WETA, Washington's public radio and television stations, for almost 25 years now. And it all started here. West Virginia is such, and always is, a nurturing place to raise our children and grandchildren. I'm not going to embarrass him. I remember changing Justin's diaper when he was 6 months old on a stage in Elkins during a rally. At least he was lying down and didn't know. There was plenty of time for bedtime stories, the same ones we read to the grandchildren now. And the regular, the normal. School, sports, camp, after school. They weren't called play dates in those years, but you get the drift. The juggling of family needs and public life is always challenging. Before you hear from Jay, and after decades of hectic lives and mismatched schedules, I really look forward to spending more time with him. It's true, Jay. But it was one of my best friends, and wise friends, who said about her husband, "I married him for life, not for lunch." Jay's service as a delegate, Secretary of State, Governor, and Senator for West Virginia has truly been an honor and privilege for our family. The gifts to each of us are really too many to count. The incredible support that we have felt from West Virginians, the close friendships, the pride that we feel in all that Jay has achieved on behalf of so many people in the state and nationally, who deserve a tenacious champion to fight for their improved futures. Jay will never stop that fight. He will continue to work for the causes that we both believe in. He will seek and he will find new opportunities for public service. And he will have more time to enjoy our 6 grandchildren. We will be forever grateful to West Virginia for welcoming us with open arms. West Virginia will always be our home, even as we turn the page and look forward to a new chapter in our lives. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sharon, so incredibly much. A truly perfect wife, by far the most popular Rockefeller in West Virginia, and the love of my life. I've asked, Sharon, I've asked you all to join us here today to share my plans for the future. And I'll get right to them, or one part of it. I have decided not to run again at the conclusion of this term, which is not now, but in 2014. That was, and I hope that each of you and the state that I love can understand that this is an entirely personal decision, here and here. It is not a political decision, and it has not been easy. It's simply this. As I approach 50 years of nonstop public service in West Virginia, 50 years of nonstop life, precluding time with children and Sharon, and 50 years of fighting for our people, I consider the other ways that I want to contribute in life, and there are many other ways, and look at my incredible family. I know deep within me that the end of this term in 2014 is the right time for me to recalibrate, to find a new balance for the things that I love: public service, my family, and West Virginia. I came to Emmons, as Sharon broke the news to you, as an untrained social worker, a VISTA volunteer, back in 1964. I actually had begun my public service 4 years before that, working 2 years for the Peace Corps and then 2 years for the Department of State. Frankly, I was in search of a clear and powerful purpose. It was that simple. I wanted something that was so compelling and so obsessive that it would just fill me out completely. I didn't necessarily want it to be complicated, but I wanted it to be hard. And living in West Virginia, in Emmons, all of those, and then West Virginia, you all gave me what I wanted most: a real and almost spiritual sense of mission. It's strong today, it's strong 10 years from now, as it was 50 years ago. So I found my calling. It was here. It still is here, and it always will be here. West Virginians as a people are so incredibly hard-working, never shying away from any physical task or uphill battle, which most battles are. Like the gritty, proud work of a coal miner or a steel worker, or the fight for a better future, almost always against incredible odds. That's what I found in Emmons and in West Virginia. Real people, tough, resolute, skeptical of me for quite a long time, and giving, truly giving. Truthfully, they gave me more than I ever could have given them. Every day and in every minute since, West Virginia has been my home, and the people of West Virginia have been my life's work. Public service demands and very much deserves nothing less than every single thing that you have to bring to bear. And that's what I have given it. I've been driven to make life better for people here. That's not a slogan for me. It's a truth and an obsession. There's a tremendous amount of greatness in West Virginia, but there's also a lot of hurt. So for 50 years, nearly 30 in the Senate, I've dug in on whatever can make a difference for our state and for our people. I've looked for every possible way to create meaningful and lasting opportunity. And I've fought to ease life's heaviest burdens for those who are forgotten, and there are many, and who deserve better. To me, every child deserves a fair shot in life. So 15 years ago, I wrote the Children's Health Insurance Program, which last year alone meant 40,000 children in West Virginia and nearly 8 million nationwide were able to see a doctor when they needed to, and otherwise they wouldn't have been able to. I also wrote the E-rate program, which is providing connectivity in classrooms so that there can be a hookup to the internet. This was back in 1996. I did that with Olympia Snow from Maine. Back then, about 14% of our classrooms had connections. Now it's 92%. And that has meant a world of difference for the opportunities and for the curiosity of our children and their families. And I have pushed really hard to establish in our tax code a bedrock of financial support, not only for the middle class, but also for the working poor of this state and this country. I'm on the Finance Committee, I can do that. I've helped to double the child tax credit, expand the Earned Income Tax Credit, so-called EITC, which is actually one of the great devourers and givers of money to families that need it, and defend vocational and college tuition credits, so that every year hundreds of thousands of struggling families in West Virginia alone have a fighting chance to make ends meet and, in fact, to get ahead. There's no substitute for a good job. So I did everything in my power, as you know, for over a decade to bring Toyota to West Virginia. Now with 1,200 workers and a total investment of $1.3 billion, it's the second largest industrial development investment in our state history. Other Japanese companies follow. And because of our incredible workforce, and because, frankly, I never stop asking for more. That's what you do. You just keep pushing, you keep asking, you keep hoping. You don't always get a yes, but you certainly don't get a yes if you don't fight for it. A push to make coal mining safer, to resolve black lung cases quicker, and in one of the peak moments of my career, maybe the peak moment, I threatened to keep the Senate in over Christmas. Bennett Johnson, then head of the Energy Committee, looking at me in total shock. And I meant it. I meant it. I'd keep them in over Christmas if they didn't pass the 1992 Coal Act. I simply would not abide the injustice of an industry going back on the promise of a lifetime health care for its retirees. Something which really goes all the way back to a deal that John L. Lewis and Harry Truman made in 1946. It was just a little different. So the United Mine Workers and I insisted on a new law to be called the Coal Act, which has protected over 200,000 miners and their families to date. And in so doing, we actually helped avert a nationwide coal strike in 1993. In that fight, and so many others, I've been proud to stand with the working men and women of America, miners and steelworkers, teachers and nurses, and everyone who deserves a fair wage, and not a privilege. The Affordable Health Care Act is the way that 32 million Americans, and more than 300,000 of them West Virginians, will be able to afford health insurance. And truth in honesty, we didn't have the money to do it all right away. And so some of those folks won't get it until 2019, but they'll get it for the first time. And I sit back and I just think of all of the fights and the anger and the amendments that came up and went down, and I'm just so proud that we saw it through to the end. The insurance companies don't like it. which makes me very proud. Because they're going to have to stop dumping people when they get sick. It's so interesting in Congress because you really have your fingers on information anywhere, always from your staff. And they just did that. We call it rescission. Somebody had been paying premiums all their life, and then they'd get some kind of a disease, and they'd just be informed they'd been cut off. And who is to know? Who is to know? Who is to care? Well, we went after that with a lot of hearings in the Commerce Committee, and then changed it completely in the bill. You remember, of course, the public option, which was so popular, and still is. People are still mad that the public option didn't come to be. Well, the problem with the public option was not the public option, it just couldn't get any votes. And I tried it with my way in the Finance Committee, and it didn't. Chuck Schumer tried it in his way, which wasn't quite as good as my way, and it didn't get any votes. So what do? You walk away from it? No. First of all, you look for a new vehicle, and it turned out to be medical loss ratio. Now, why do I love medical loss ratio? Not just for what it does, but nobody has any idea of what it is. So they can't attack it frontally as general, congressmen and senators, unless they know something about it. But it just simply says that insurance companies will have to stop dumping people when they get sick and stop spending more on fancy offices and on medical care, because we say in law, already in practice, that they have to spend either 85 or 80%, depending upon their size, of all their premium money from their members on health care. And then that health care gets measured and analyzed by HHS and other groups, so that if they fall short and spend more than the 15 or 20%, then they have to, under the law, pay a rebate to the premium payers. And already millions of dollars have come to West Virginians, and much more than that throughout the country, in rebates. Imagine getting a rebate from an insurance company. But it protects people from financial ruin. So healthcare is a moral imperative, and finally, it's law. And just like the Toll Act, which companies took to every single court available. But when the Supreme Court ruled that they were wrong and that we were right, so to speak, many, the UMW, etc., was right, that was that. Same thing happened on health care. Everybody fighting it, every single way they know, trying to chip away at the edges. The Supreme Court gets a hold of it and happily sustains it. And so it's there forever. So I could go on all day, that's probably your worst fear, about the work to help our veterans and our seniors live with dignity, the work to reform the intelligence community after 9/11, which was extraordinary and still is experience, and to invest in science and technology and aviation and infrastructure. We've put $50 million into the Kanawha County Airport. I don't think many people know that, but I'm telling you that. Over a period of years, to improve it, to enlarge it, to make it safer. I could talk about exhilarating fights as chairman of the Commerce Committee to make our cars more efficient, our phone bills more truthful, our Coast Guard more agile, and the Internet more safe. The Internet is a large and looming problem and has everything to do with cybersecurity, something which we seem not to be able to address in Congress, which is wrong. So on and on, we're leveraging the best in government to help people and to solve problems, always keeping at the forefront what it really means here at home in West Virginia. And that's what I'll do for the next 2 years in the Senate. We've got a really rough debt ceiling, several weeks coming up, really, really rough. And I want to be a part of that fight. I will continue pouring myself into it because there's so much that's important to do. There always is in West Virginia. Let me say clearly that I have every intention of keeping up this intensity. This is a no-holds-barred approach that I've always had and which I'll continue to have to solving problems that affect our people's lives for the rest of my Senate term and well beyond that. I will never be able to stop working for the people who have always meant so much to me and the causes that I am so passionate about and which sustain me. And there's another great passion in my life, and they're sitting right here in front of me, including Valerie, who has the flu. So don't talk to her too much. Sharon and our family, our grandchildren, have not had enough of me. Maybe they don't feel that way, but I do. They're endlessly supportive, and they bring such total joy. So it's time now, or pretty soon, for me to do public service in new ways, and for Sharon and our family to be my first priority. That's the way it's going to be. So I will close with heartfelt gratitude to all of you for coming here today and for everything that you've all done in so many different ways over the years. To my family, whose support is unparalleled and whose encouragement is so acutely felt. To the most loyal friends and advisors I could ever imagine, not just those who speak this morning, but so many of you out there who came from far away and changed schedules to get here for this day, which honors me greatly. To my brilliant and compassionate staff, and I have a good one. They're led by Carrie Yates, Rocky Goodwin, and Ellen Dineski. And they're endlessly dedicated to our state and to people in need. We all share it. We are a family of common interests, and no holds barred, nothing stops us. I want so much to tell you about each one of the staff folks, person by person. I can't do that, but I really want to. And to all West Virginians who took me in, transformed me, and supported me, whose home is and always will be mine, and who I will always be proud to fight for, no matter what the cause. Thank you. Tradition, the raised microphone is appropriate for me. So, as you heard, my sister Valerie is sick, and I have to let everyone know that because I'm going to be reading her speech, and there are a couple parts of it where you'll know it was definitely her words, but I'm happy to read it for her, and so just imagine her voice. And I'll just add a personal note. I'm very happy to be here. I have a lot of great memories in Charleston, and I spent a lot of yesterday driving around to just some of my favorite places, a couple of which my mother referenced. I think I was the primary bicyclist in the Capitol grounds, or at least the one who did the most damage. And I'm especially fond of that little incline up there at the edge of the Capitol where I would try to do some jumps. So here goes Valerie's words. I now live where my grandmother grew up, and I taught middle school special education in New York City, so I have a stronger sense of where my father came from. But it's in West Virginia that he really grew up, with almost as much credit to all of you as to our mother. Our parents raised us here because their hearts and their work are in West Virginia, but also because they wanted to instill West Virginia values in us.
We thrived on weekends at our farm in Pocahontas County, enjoyed every Mountaineers game, and learned as much at senior citizen centers, coal mines, and flood disaster sites as we did in our great Kanawha County public schools. Although both of our parents are exceptionally hard workers, my brothers and I, and Valerie, often could join in their travels and always heard about their projects, so we truly shared the values they modeled for us. I don't have to remind you that our mother is our father's equal partner, and fortunately, his clear superior in planning family holidays, which I also believe, as well as Valerie. But I'll focus on him today. Research shows that a father has a major, this is where you really know it's Valerie's words. Research shows that a father has a major impact on his daughter's future husband. So it's no surprise that I married a man who, like Daddy, relishes challenges, makes decisions guided by principle rather than popularity, believes passionately in the power of loving leadership, and isn't opposed to televised sports. Both of which Valerie and my mother have comments on televised sports. Knowing my father, as we all do, there won't be much sitting around, except for WVU and Braves games, of course. But our family does look forward to more time with him. Percy and Lucy and Davis feel perfectly free to run into his office now, but we would be delighted to see more of Granddaddy in other places also. He will continue to share his beliefs, stories, lessons, and wisdom with us. We will continue to strive to live up to his example of commitment to family and public service. We can never become cynical about politics or government because our father's determination in the necessary battles and his intense pride in the people he has collaborated with have shaped our attitudes and decisions too. We love you, Daddy. We're proud of you. We're grateful to Mommy, to you, and to West Virginia for putting us on the right path for our lives to be as meaningful and as joyful as your own. Thanks.
Well, I'm not quite as tall as a Rockefeller, so I'm going to drop it down. My name is Pat Maroney, and it's a great honor, Senator, to be here with you today and with your family. And so Senator, Sharon, John, Valerie, Charles, Justin, Hope, and the entire Rockefeller family, I want to thank you for the personal sacrifices that the family has made over the past 5 decades. This state and nation have risen to great heights in the eyes not just of West Virginians, but of the world because of the unselfish gift that you've given to this state and nation. Senator, not only on behalf of the citizens of West Virginia, but as a Democrat and on behalf of a grateful Democratic Party here and across this vast country, you've carried this party's banner to create a better life for working men and women and their families. Your efforts have really borne the fruits of your labor. May I say, many say, and I agree, that your 8 years as governor was probably the best of this generation. Now, he took a little bit of my speech and he should have, but I've got to say it again. The health care program for West Virginians and across this nation is unequaled anywhere in this world. Thank you so much for that. The veterans that you have helped with the Veterans Health Care Act in 1992 is providing increased benefits for every man and woman who has risen to the call to serve our country. And again, the veterans of this state and nation, thank you. And the Coal Act, which you sponsored. The Coal Act. Cecil's right here, and he understands the Coal Act. His mother was a real beneficiary of the Coal Act, and every other miner's family and their widows benefit from that to this day and will for the remainder of their lives. That Mine Health Safety Act of 2006 was the best of this generation, saving many, many miners' lives. The seniors that you secure Medicare and Medicaid benefits in increased amounts and closing the donut hole. closing the donut hole. You established with your family the Blanchette Rockefeller Neuroscience Institute at WVU in a partnership to help find cures for neurological diseases, including Alzheimer's. Your creation of jobs in West Virginia is legendary. But I've really got to hit on this. As your most courageous and monumental act, as you stood shoulder to shoulder with the President of the United States in the passage of the Affordable Health Care Act. Some tried to defeat or defame this act by referring to it as Obamacare. I prefer to call it Obamacares, Rockefeller cares, and the Democratic Party of this country cares for the health care of all Americans. You have the vision to build not just for today or tomorrow, but for the ages. You have lifted this state and nation upward and onward. You've spoken for the men and women who often rise well before daylight and come home after the last light has faded from the day. Those are the people who have given their lives to make this nation great, and you have spoken for them. Not just for the living, but those yet to be born. The men, the women, the children, the seniors, the veterans, the poor, the weak, the weary, and the oppressed. You have had the courage to sacrifice yourself for these ideals and principles. Each night, Senator, there are thousands of men, women, and children in this country, of working families, who kneel and ask their God to guide and bless what they receive because of your efforts. The name of John D. Rockefeller IV is deeply carved in the pillars of the Democratic Party because of your great work. If President Kennedy were alive today, he would add a chapter to Profiles in Courage, and it would be the chapter on John D. Rockefeller IV. I see your 5 decades in public service like the ancient mariner on the midnight watch while sailing over a stormy sea. And he turns his eyes to the heaven as his watch is coming to an end and sees the stars fade. But while he does that, the Almighty himself, marks the passage of time on the face of this earth by acknowledging your great works. No ship bells may ring the glad tidings, but many of us know of your great work and know that you and your family are safe. The storm is over, and while rest and relief are at hand, we know that you will still be working for us because you will never quit fighting for the working people of this world. Thank you, Senator.